you had like 13 or 14 guys kind of taking kick returns the first day. Is it just with not knowing, with these guys not having necessarily done this before, is it just get as many guys out there as possible and see how they kind of react to the new rules and format?
Yeah, as many guys that are ball handlers that we can get experience being a returner, both punt returner and kickoff returner. We want to work them as much as possible. So there's some guys that will work as returners, and then one day they'll go and be on the front line of kickoff return. They can kind of do multiple different roles. But we're just trying to get as many guys back there to see who can handle some of these different situations, because it's still very speculative exactly how this is going to play out. There's certainly a chance or an incentive that there's going to be trick kicks. The ball could be rolling around on the ground. You're not necessarily looking for a traditional kickoff returner that can catch an easy, ball with an over 4-second hang time. So who are some of those guys that are really trustworthy ball handlers that can field ground balls and get the ball vertical and make somebody miss? And that's not something maybe we've evaluated in the past. So we're kind of got a bigger pool of guys that we're trying to work through to get experience with that.
The guy who doesn't get the ball, you got the two returners back there, and the guy who doesn't get the ball, it's kind of a weird blocking technique, because you run so much before you get to it, right? Like, that's going to be a different kind of thing to lead the guy up there, and you're running 15 yards before you get to the guy.
Yeah, the timing and spacing on everything is definitely different, and it's definitely going to be different for that off returner. He's still going to go and try to block or kick somebody out probably similar to what he used to. Just the timing of all that is going to be very different, especially because he's the only other guy that's back there, where you used to have 3 guys back there. But certainly the timing of all that is something we're still trying to figure out. And, based on different kicks you might get, that timing could be different on a lot of different reps. So certainly it's something that we still need to get more experience with.
What was your experience? I'm sorry. Go ahead. What was your reaction when you found out that the kickoff rules had been changed? And is it just a brave new world for you and every other coach?
We were kind of eased into it. We started having Zoom meetings with all 32 special teams coordinators in the NFL. Back in February, so well before it was kind of proposed or put on paper. They had kind of brought up, here's what we're looking to do. We had some meetings at the Combine about it to go through more details. So we started studying that, early in the offseason to kind of get a feel for how everything was going to work. The rule has been adjusted, pretty regularly, just about every month. Something's kind of tweaked here and there. So we're still working with some of those adjustments as we work through everything, but it wasn't like, right after the owners' meetings that it was a big surprise. It was something that we'd kind of been working on. It's just going to be something that we have to constantly adapt and grow with as we get more experience to be able to do it once the pads get on. We haven't really been able to do a live rep of it 11 on 11 because we haven't been able to put the pads on yet.
How important will those preseason games be, the preseason games, to kind of figuring out personnel, strategy, all the above?
I think joint practices are going to be probably the number one, probably best tool to see how everything goes. Preseason games are going to be great as well. But once we can get through joint practices and preseason games, we'll have a much better feel for, at least to some degree, how things are going to play out.
Freddie, how did you research how this was going to be? Did you reach out to people, obviously, who've done it before?
Yeah, so we studied a lot about the XFL, watched all the XFL clips. The difference being, we've obviously tweaked some things in the NFL than what the XFL does. So I think the timing and some of the spacing and things will be different than the XFL game, and it'll be different than the XFL game because our play can start when the ball hits the ground. So we might see a lot of different kicks with some of those things. We talked to Sam Schwartzstein, who actually was with the XFL and invented the play and kind of went through how they tested and practiced it. And we've talked with some XFL coaches, both in person and over the phone, to kind of get an idea of how they practiced it or how they coached it. I think there are some differences that we still need to figure out how to work with that, but we've tried to use as many resources as we could find.
From a defensive perspective, does it change or at least open the door for more archetypes to, defend kickoffs in today's rule?
Yeah, so from a kickoff standpoint, there's going to be less running, and we know that there's probably going to be more returns in a shorter space. So we're looking for guys that are really good defensive players for the most part that can tackle and can shed blocks quickly. So you're looking at, hey, maybe we can use some more starters on defense because there's not as much running, and we know, this is a really important play. We don't have levels to the coverage like we used to because guys aren't running down the field. Everybody's starting in a straight stationary line. So if the ball pops, that's obviously a concern. So we need as many guys that we can trust to get the ball down the first time as possible.